Happy video day, guys. So for today's video, we've got a brand new Make Up Your Mind because there was a new eyeshadow palette that, well, I don't know if I would say it called my attention, but the color story was so interesting that it really challenged me to want to see if I can find something similar in my collection. So the palette that we're talking about is actually from MUYM Cosmetics, and it is called 420 Eyeshadow Palette, and it's going to retail for $58 US. And if you guys can know, I guess you guys kind of figure from the color story why it's called this, but it kind of called my attention, not because I'm like in love with this color story, but because it's such an odd color story for me that I really wanted to see if I owned it. I kind of wanted to see which are the colors from my collection that would match these to the best of my ability so that I can see what this color story is all about, see the colors that are being used, and kind of like gauge whether I would even use this or not. So if you guys are new to my Make Up Your Mind series, basically this is a series that I created here on YouTube, and what we do here is we search through our collections together to try to find similar hues in our collection to brand new released eyeshadow palettes so that we can kind of gauge for ourselves, A, is this a kind of color story that I actually am going to wear, and B, if we kind of already own similar colors and maybe we don't think it's worth it to pick up a certain palette. So we've been doing this for a while now. I'm going to link my playlist down below if you guys want to see all the videos that I have been creating, and I cannot believe that it has been more than half a year that I have been doing Make Up Your Mind on YouTube, and I love the fact that you guys have enjoyed this series so much. And I know I say that a lot, but it really means a lot to me. When you invent something new, you don't really know which direction it's going to go. Either people are going to hate it or people are going to like it. So I'm really excited that a lot of you guys have loved this series so much and actually have implemented this into your daily lives. If you're somebody who wants to think twice before purchasing makeup and really give yourself a moment to digest it, to think about it, to look at a similar color story, then I think you found the right channel. You should go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can see more of these videos. I do post them every single week. So for this video, we're going to go over everything on this new MUYM Cosmetics eyeshadow palette. I'm going to show you guys the palettes that I found, and I am going to tell you that I cannot believe that I actually found this color story. I cannot believe it because I really was thinking I'm not going to find none of these colors. Like, this is just not my type of color story. I'm not gonna find it, and I'm shocked. I really am. And I'm gonna also tell you guys there is one palette in here that released last year that a lot of you guys may own, and I believe that you're gonna get a lot of colors from it. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. I always do is I show you guys my results. So these are the results. So if you guys can see, I believe that I was able to kind of create a very similar color story. Are all the colors exactly the exact same color? They're probably not. But for the most part, this is the color story. And when all these colors are blended on the lid and created into eye looks, they're going to look pretty similar to what you're going to be able to create if you purchase the new MUYM Cosmetics palette. So for this Make Up Your Mind, I actually used 4 palettes. And I will tell you guys, it's really more like 3 because I only got 1 color from one of the palettes. I got 1 color out of the Sephora Pro Editorial palette. I got like 2 colors out of the Natasha Denona Sunrise palette. And also for the Urban Decay Born to Run, I think there was only 1 color I grabbed out of here. And the majority of the tones, so I'm saying like almost every single one of the tones I got from Metropolis. So if you guys have the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette and you're looking into this one, you may want to open your ears a little bit because you may be able to create a very similar color story, or at least be able to see what this new color story is going to look like. So if you guys are ready, let's go ahead and let's get into the first shade. So now for the first shade, this is a lime color. Now this one I thought for sure I did not own, and I actually skipped it. I started doing all the other ones and I left this one for last because I was like, I'm never gonna find this. I don't own this, because usually I see this color in metallics or shiny shades. I usually don't see them in mattes. So what I decided to do was just jump into the Sephora Editorial palette, because you guys know I purchased this palette because I wanted those really like neon-y colors that I don't own, and I just wanted them all in one palette, so if I needed them I could jump into it. And when I opened it, I saw this color and I go, oh, it's there. And when I swatched it, guys, it's gonna be similar. I mean, Is it the exact tone? It may not be. I think maybe the Melt Cosmetics one might be a little bit less neon than the color that I found in here. But for the most part, the color looks pretty similar. So I felt like, okay, I kind of have that tone. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. I hardly ever wear that color on my lids. And I like that color, but I like it more when it's metallic. So for it to be like a neon matte is like, I mean, for me, it's just not a color I like to wear that often. So then the next color, it reminded me so much of a color, and this is what made me want to pull out Metropolis, because I remember there's this color right here called Lethal. And if you guys look at Lethal, it is a limeish green, and it comes off a lot lighter when you swatch it than it even looks in the pan. It actually looks a little bit more lime when you swatch it, so you guys can tell from the actual swatch. So when I was looking at these colors together, I go, that color looks so close, like it really does. I feel like this color is going to look so similar on the lids to maybe the color that's coming out of the Melt Cosmetics palette. And that color is one of the most difficult colors that I find to use in the new Metropolis palette. It's a cool color, but it's so grungy and like, I don't know, it's like an awkward color. It's like lethal. I mean, like the color kind of like really is named the right tone. Lethal, like that's just what it reminds me of. It's just an awkward color. So when you put it on your lid, sometimes it does give you a little bit more of like a dead effect. Like, I don't know, it's not like the most flattering color. You have to play with it a lot. So far the first two tones in this palette are not tones that I personally like to gravitate to. I love greens. These are just not the type of greens that I like. So now the next color, when I looked at it, I remembered also in Metropolis, there's another color that I have a very hard time using, and it's this one right here called Royal. So if you guys see Royal, and I mean, if it's not gonna be exactly the same, it's gonna be pretty damn similar. And you can build up this Royal color and just keep on adding to it, and it gets deeper and deeper. So this is a color to me that I feel like even if it doesn't come off on the lids exactly the same color, you can build this one up, and I think you're gonna be able to get pretty damn close. So for the next one, this is the one that I just ended up jumping into Born to Run for. Now, the reason that I did this was because there was some other tones that had brown in it, but I just felt like this one was the closest brown. So I just pulled it out just to have it. So I got this color called Good as Gone. Good as Gone has a very similar hue to this brown. Now this is a very deep brown. If you guys can see in the swatch, it is an extremely deep brown. And I was pulling some other browns, and I found like even some browns in the new Metropolis palette, but nothing was this rich, this deep. So I really wanted to pull this color so that it would be very, very similar. And I do feel like this color, when built up, it's gonna give you a similar effect. So for sure, I feel like the first four tones, I kind of have them. Do I think that they are like something like I need it? Not really. We have a few more tones, and the next one also reminded me of a color that I had seen also in Metropolis. So far I'm starting to notice Metropolis has a very similar color story to this brand new palette. And it's this one right here. So this one right here called Troop is another one of those tones that in the pan looks a little bit deeper, but when you actually apply it to the eye and you also swatch it, it comes off lighter. And it reminds me of like almost like that army green kind of tone. Like it's like that army green, like it's a little bit of a mixture between a brown and a green, and it's a really pretty color. And this one I actually enjoy a little bit more than Lethal, and I feel like I use this one a little bit more. Probably my favorite color that I have seen so far coming out of this brand new Melt Cosmetics palette. Like it's that tone is probably like my favorite one so far. But for the most part so far, I'm still not completely sold with the color story, but I feel like I have found it, which is really weird because I really didn't think I was going to. And I'm actually shocked that so many of them were in Metropolis. So if I go on to the next one, so the next one I was kind of stumped with a little bit because I was looking at Metropolis and I go, you know what, I want to really stick to Metropolis because how many can I really pull out of here? So I started looking at this color called Stan, and Stan to me looked really similar. Like when I swatched it, I go, that looks pretty close. But I decided to add a little bit of this color called Pure on top of it. Now when Pure and Stan mix together, I feel like you are getting more of an orangey brown, which looks a little bit more similar to the tone that I'm seeing in the new Melt Cosmetics palette. If you just got the color Stan on its own, I feel like you're gonna have a little bit too orange of a tone, where this one goes a little bit more brown orange. So that's why I did that, and I do feel like those two together kind of create this tone. Now, of course, when things are blended on the lid and everything, I mean, I think if you use Stan, you might have a very similar outcome. Those are two of the colors that I actually really like in Metropolis. So those two I really like. So that color is another color that is pretty. It's very nice in this palette. But and then if I kept on going, the next one was this metallic. So I feel like there's only one metallic in this Melt Cosmetics palette. At least that's what I can tell from the swatches. It looks like there's only one metallic. So the metallic that I pulled was this one called Rust inside of Metropolis. And it is like an orangey, rusty kind of metallic. But I don't know, it like almost looks like to me like it pulls orange, and this one pulls orange. So when I kind of saw it, it kind of really reminded me of this tone. So I personally think that these are going to look similar on the lid. So I do feel like that one I also was able to find inside of Metropolis. So now I was kind of stumped a little bit because there's this more yellow tone, and there is a yellow inside of Metropolis. You guys see it right here. But because this one inside of the brand new Melt Cosmetics palette, the 420 palette, it looked a little bit more yellow. So that's why I decided to pull out Sunrise, because Sunrise has this color here called Citrine, and Citrine almost looks very yellow. It reminds me of this color, but what I decided to do was add a little bit of this color called Carnelian and mix them together, and it makes the yellow a little bit more orange yellow. When they do mix together, I feel like they become like a yellow orange, which is what I'm seeing in these swatches online, that I think it's like a yellow orange, and I feel like this tone may be very, very close. So far guys, I've got two colors left to not be able to find in my collection, or to feel like they are so amazing, I need to buy this palette, because even though, you know, I feel like I find some of these other tones, I feel like these tones are just so cool. Next one, I kind of like was looking at my Sunrise palette, and then I looked right across the way and I saw Jasper. And Jasper is one of those tones that you guys do know that I really like, and I use Jasper a lot on the lid. So I do love Jasper, but I feel like I have Jasper, and Natasha Denona's formula to me is just like heaven. I love her formula. So I don't feel like I need Jasper in another palette. So that one I feel like I also have. So then when we went on to the last color, now this last color was getting me a little annoyed because I felt like it was making me want to pull another palette, and I said no, I want to try to create it, because if you guys look inside of Metropolis, there was this color called Pure that I originally used to mix with another color, and it's this one right here, and it's a very, very pale brown. So if you get that color and you decide to be creative and you jump into Sunrise, and you grab a little bit of Morgan and that brown color, when they mix together, you create a more nudie pink. And I feel like that color is close to the color that is in the new Melt Cosmetics palette. So if anything, the last color is the color that I just didn't really go out of my way crazy to find. I feel like if I would have gone into the new nude from Huda Beauty, I would have found that color like spot on. But already from looking at this color story and basically creating that last color, which it looks very similar already, I feel like I'm already looking at this color story. Looking at the color story, I still have it swatched on my arm. I didn't do an eye look today using this palette because this was just like a last minute, like I want to do this Make Up Your Mind and I want to film it today. I'm trying to film videos for you guys have videos every single day, which has been very difficult, but I've been doing it. But so yeah, I decided to just film it and not do the look. But I feel like after looking at on my arm, everything swatched, and I'm looking at this color story, I don't see myself wearing this color story very often. And I think it also goes back to the fact that I don't use Metropolis that often. And I've told you guys that before, that I bought Metropolis based off of the look of it. It's so beautiful. There's so many cool colors in it. But at the end of the day, I don't feel myself grabbing Metropolis that often. And I really need to, and I've said this in a few videos, you need to start going into Metropolis, because because anytime I find like these similar hues and I find that they're coming from Metropolis, I just feel like you own Metropolis. You need to use Metropolis, Christina. It is kind of unique because I always thought that Metropolis is a very unique palette. If you don't own Metropolis and you kind of like this color story, then it might be interesting for you. But I do feel like if you own Metropolis, you really need to look at this color story twice and just really decide if you really need it or not, because you may find very similar hues inside your Metropolis palette that when they're applied and when they're blended and everything is said and done, you may be able to come out with very similar looks, not exact looks, but similar looks. So for me personally, I have just decided that I'm going to have to stop this now and make up my mind, and that is that I am not going to be purchasing this new Melt Cosmetics 420 palette. It's just not me in a palette, and it's just not color story that I gravitate to. So to have another one is just not worth it for me. So that's why I decided not to pick it up. Now, I've heard very good things about Melt Cosmetics formula, and I have not tried their formula yet. So I'm still waiting for that palette that makes me want to buy it. But for right now, I'm going to have to skip out on this one. I want to know from you guys down below, did you guys pick up this palette, or do you guys own more similar hues than the hues that I found? Everybody loves to read the description box to see what you guys found in your collection. Go ahead and share that down below for everybody else to go ahead and enjoy. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys really enjoyed the video. If you guys did, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can join the family, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.